to substitute 83.7% of wheat with 60% of maize flour. And of course, to meet the 40% of the bakeries need. Actually, they were succeeded. And they could generate 50 million USD per year. That has been in the early 1980s. And the second plan was to do the same with sorghum and wheat. Unfortunately, perhaps because of government change, the socialist government change, that program has been discontinued. So we are now initiating, based on this experience, to really go for wheat composite flour making as one solution for meeting for self-sufficiency in Ethiopia. So methodology, I will not go to the detail. We did a desk research. As I showed you earlier, we did also a field research. Especially, we did a stakeholders interview. 53 respondents drawn from millers, bakeries, retailers, consumers, researchers, government, and farmers were interviewed. Initially, this was actually our objective, just to end up the project there. But through this ALP check-in process, the AMI, especially Jonathan, insisted to go for piloting. So what we did was we constituted a 30% consumer test panel. Rahel has an agro-processing plant. She is from private sector. So we did a wheat maize proportion of 50-50 flour, 75-20-50, 25, and 60-40 with sorghum, teff, maize, and wheat. These combinations were made and bread was baked out of this proportion. And then the consumers were given to test and evaluate based on qualitative criteria: color, taste, smell, texture, with a Likert scale of 1 to 3. And also, they were asked what they didn't like, if they don't like it, and however they will be willing to buy if a bread made from wheat and maize, wheat and sorghum, can be processed at factory level. Okay. Then the test panel's preference was recorded and analyzed. Next, please. So what was the result? The stakeholder survey showed us that the wheat and non-wheat flour ratio most frequently suggested by the survey respondents was 70-30, 75-25, 60-40 would be suitable for wheat processing. They did this one because of they do it in their home actually, and they do it also in the small hammer mills in the rural and urban areas. But there are also other proportions actually suggested by different respondents. Especially, they point out that white maize is actually suitable for blending with wheat, and food barley was actually suggested for its nutrition actually. So I don't want to go into this detail, but this is the respondents' result of the respondents. The next one is on the most frequently mentioned, again, criteria was taste, color, smell, texture, and traceability. I will come later on what do you mean by traceability. We also asked the price. If we have blended bread and full bread, whole bread, whole wheat bread, should the price increase or decrease? 56% they say it has to be actually lower than the pure 100% bread. Technology can change. The millers and bakeries are suggesting that if you go for this process, we need actually to change the technology, processing technology and baking technology. The farmers are also happy. We actually discussed with some farmers, but they said that if import can be curtailed, our domestic food production will be increasing, as well as the other crops can be increased. They will be encouraged to do that. Next, please. The next one is on the piloting result. On piloting, as I said, the consumer panels, actually, they hardly distinguish between the different proportions. Maybe here, I think there might be some technical problems because the testing panel itself requires, knowledge in between two tests, you have to wash your mouth or you do something. Otherwise, if you give them continuously, they may not be able to trace it out. Because most of them, they came, they couldn't distinguish actually by different proportions. Anyways, why they figure out is that the sorghum wheat blend is not good. Sorghum and wheat, especially at higher proportions. And also maize, 100% was actually seen as a crumbly and dry. Similarly for teff and maize, especially when they are taken at full proportions. So I think this has just indicated us that there is a possibility both from the surveys and the pilot that with other crops proportions, ratios can be acceptable if that program can be rolled out in the country. Next, please. Then, but there are serious questions, suggestions that were provided by the pilot, the test consumers, as well as the surveys. One is consumers' sincere acceptability and adaptability to the taste might be a problem. This is one worry of the respondents. Adulteration was raised actually very abundantly. People say it can be adulterated somewhere. Instead of 80-20, people can make it actually 50-50. How do we know that? And again, storability and safety was also raised. Should whether wheat 100% bread and bread made of wheat and maize, can it store well? Can it store safe? That's another worry. Technological process, as I said you, functional property of the composite flour. It is viscoelasticity, that would be another worry. Ensuring availability and sustained supply of the component crops, actually. Substitute crops is also another point that was raised. And finally, the regulatory system has been also raised as a major issue if you roll out this program. As a conclusion, stakeholder surveys and test panels both suggest that wheat composite processing has great development potential. The composite flour processing at mills level may be costly due to technological change. So what is suggested is actually better than in bakeries rather than at millers level, because you can have different flours separately, wheat flour separately, maize flour separately, and just you mix it and bake it. Otherwise, at millers level, you have to have a different technology to mill together the two big seeds and grains and small grains. Using 2021 production and import as a baseline, therefore, we just calculated if 40% of the wheat, that is 3.2 million of the country wheat, can be composited with 20% of other crops like maize and sorghum. Perhaps about 0.6 million tons can be saved. And this means that will allow import to be reduced by about close to 40%. Just as if we actually composite 40% of the total wheat in the country. This is just a simple calculation. Next. So what's our recommendation, the way forward? One, to create awareness and widely promoting composite flour processing at all levels. That can be done by the Ministry of Agriculture. Conduct research on optimal blending ratio, shelf life and safety of composite flour or bread. Create a national substitute crop development program. Piloting policies and putting in place policies and regulatory mechanisms. Setting up blended standards. Encouraging the private sector to enter to the business. Analyzing the feasibility of wheat composite flour processing at scale. And of course, piloting composite flour processing before it can be taken up at national. As a way forward, what we do then, next we are planning to communicate the team's findings on composite flour potential to reduce import national benefits to government officials, especially the Minister of Industry. Then the other one is actually the team members should take any advantage and any opportunity whenever arise to promote this wheat composite flour processing. Next. Yeah, the lessons on the topic could be viewed as one of the several strategic solutions to its shortage problem rather than as an alternative, as I said it. With scarcity affects stakeholders all along the supply chain, ensuring waste self-sufficiency, a shared challenge that is in everyone's best interest. The third learning on the topic is with composite flour making the unestablished practice in most households. On creating change on the ground, of course, the interview and panelists were made aware of the alternative options for resolving the wheat shortage. And researchers and processors showed interest and a desire to work actually on this wheat composite flour processing. On running the project, actually gathering participatory stakeholder opinions, various panels and surveys, providing insight into wheat composite flour processing as one potential for wheat self-sufficiency, as well as substantiating our field data. Maybe the last slide. On teamwork, actually, the team struggled to stay together initially until it learned from its mistakes and improve later. And again, the team learned actually the power of small wins. Initially, we did the survey, we get some results. And then we did the pilot, we get some results. And then consolidating this actually provides an insight whether this wheat composite flour would be a potential solution. So we just learned from our small wins. The team also learned that the teamwork is actually a kind of microcosm of the real world stakeholder intervention with divergent interests and multiple challenges that necessitated concerted and synergetic efforts. Just the difficulties we face in the team, that is a kind of actually microcosm for the broader agricultural transformation the different institutions and stakeholders would face working together. On personal management leadership habits, in the events that a strong team could not be formed, the team realized how critical it was actually for some of the team members to lead them and motivate members to move the team forward. That is self-leadership exercise. The last one is the team learned a variety of leadership management skills that can be applied on personal and professional as well as organizational level. This is the last one. Oh, challenges, inability to form a strong team, inability to capitalize. Well, I would like to mention here, inability to capitalize on CALA's promised financial assistance for the LPA topic because of two reasons. One, the proposal was misunderstood by the evaluation team of CALA or whoever Agra. Second, the team's lack of readiness actually to receive and implement the project as directed. Inability to conduct in-person interviews and the wider piloting activity due to lack of actually time and of course logistics. COVID-19 was also made actually our face-to-face meetings difficult because the course is entirely online and the members are not released from their own daily obligations. They are unable to actually to set adequate time aside for the course. Of course, connectivity was actually another challenge in our business. I finished? Yeah, just would like to acknowledge all this listed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so we can ask the team members to come up as well. And I just had lunch, but hearing about all those bread mixes made me hungry again. And I wish you had brought us samples so we could also test them. Don't you agree? Yes, next time, next time. Over to the panel again, I'll ask you just one question each. We only have 10 minutes, whatever you think you really, really need to know. So go ahead. I think you do have mics on the table.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was very nice presentation and an effort to reduce pressure on wheat, which is a major commodity in Ethiopia. The only thing you didn't come out clear is as you reduce pressure on maize, the other commodities being proposed for use, you didn't say anything about the availability. Teff, cassava, sorghum, and the like. Although sorghum was not a liked commodity for blending with wheat. Then the other issue is, what is your main agenda? You want to reduce importation, or you just want to make sure that there is enough food in the country.
Thanks. Great presentation. Thank you so much. I was really hoping for samples, as Rashma said, but it was great to see the pictures. And you know what I really liked about this was that it's such a well-defined project. It's part of a bigger problem, but you've, if I can use a bad pun, you've bitten off just the piece that you could chew, and just taken something that's quite manageable and that you could achieve in the time. So at one point in my notes, I was thinking, it would have been nice if you'd been able to actually implement and test, but actually to do the taste test, it felt like you were able to achieve broadly what you set out to achieve, and make some meaningful progress. I guess my question would be about what next. So the what next slide was very clear. I think you said that your recommendation was that it would be added, the flours would be mixed at the baker level. By the bakers. So have you spent time speaking with the bakers and kind of understanding their appetite for doing this? Because it feels like that might be even more critical than government uptake. I don't know obviously the context as you do, but is it commercially viable? Do you feel like you've understood the business case for the bakers?
Thank you very much. And this is a really great project you guys had. I think it just fits within the ALP and what it's supposed to achieve. And it's both, the results are clear to me, the process is clear to me, what you have achieved is clear to me, and I can see that if you worked with industry, for example, like Rebecca is hinting, and the public sector, you might then take it to the next level in terms of it becoming more of either a policy or new products coming up that are then blended flours. And I did hear you say that, you know, adulteration is a problem. Now, if I can't tell that you've put in too much maize in my wheat flour or in my blended flour, that tells me that it's probably a really good thing, because it's not easy to tell the difference. So I did have one question though, because I think this is really critical. What's driving the change in consumer tastes? Anytime I think of Ethiopia, I think of teff, injera. I don't think of wheat, what we have in Kenya, mandazi, chapati, these things that are made of wheat, I guess bread-based diets. And it's not an Ethiopian, it's an African problem. Why are we narrowing down our diets to wheat-based diets? This analysis could also help us find out what else we could do. Why are people moving away from injera? Is it not something that's traditionally and, you know, widely utilized, and that should be developed? That really troubled me a little bit. And then I'm trying to find out if there are any disadvantages to blending, to this kind of flour blending. And if you investigated that, I just don't see nutritionally whether we have addressed the elements. There are probably advantages on the nutritional side, but if you could add a nutritional argument to this, where we are saying, well, if you add sorghum or maize, you're going to have more iron or more calcium or more whatever, that the impact would just be much greater than just saying we are going to reduce our import bills, save on forex, and so on and so forth. So otherwise, this is really excellent. And I do some work in Ethiopia, and I'm quite happy to connect you guys to the team there. They could support you with some of your planned engagements, whether it's a dialogue workshop or something like that. So you can reach out, and then we'll see how to support that. Thank you.
We have, okay, so over to the team, just 5 minutes or less. Your chance to respond.
Thank you very much. I'm Isaias from the Ministry of Agriculture. I'm CEO for crop development. So it is alignment is with which I have a wheat flagship program, which we sought in different way. The availability of the other commodity maize, where when we look the production and the demand of the country, we are self-sufficient in maize production. As a country, even we are exporting 10% of the maize to neighboring countries. So maize is the first optional, and we can take it maize as the best option. Even when we select this one, maize is one of the product, thanks to Sasakawa global initiatives in the last 10 years. So that brought a great production increment or technology utilization by the farmer. So this is one of the things. The other is we have an experience also in some projects also, like with GIZ, we have with Green Innovation Centers. I think Kenya also have these programs. We have wheat and the faba bean crop rotation. So in 1 gram slam competition, we have some bakeries has brought a mix of wheat and faba bean as a nutritious food also. So even they have tested in the laboratories, like the qualities and the different things were tested. So as a problem, we can mention that the shelf life is one of the things, because wheat and other crops have different shelf life. So that is one of the problem. We can take it. And then the nutrition aspect also, because when we are mixing one crop with other crop, for example, we preferred as a team the QPM, the quality protein maize is the best one, because it has some protein content when we consider the cereal team. So the QPM is a better one. Mixing with wheat with other crops, if you get to this pulses, that is one of the difficult, but nutritiously it is good, because they are source of protein. So where this one, what is the driving challenge of taste of consumers? I think Rahel will go through this. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rahel, and I'm a founder and managing director of Ethio Green Production Industry PLC. Our company is processing injera, and the majority, like 95%, we provide our product for the export market, which is going to the diaspora, like the US, some European countries, and the Middle East. So talking about the adulteration, about the food adulteration, you ask about injera. So what I would like to say is, in Ethiopia, like it is regarded as a highly nutritious or respectable grain. Whereas when we talk about sorghum, or when we talk about other grain like maize and so on, the acceptability is not as high as it would have been for 100% tail. But in this regard, what I believe should be done is awareness creation. But when I say awareness creation, that awareness should be by providing what is the nutritional fact, because it is blindly, people are not, they don't have the information, but it's a blind expectation of the other grains. So for that purpose, what we need to do is we need to intervene, especially the government, to provide us the nutritional fact. And then with the nutritional fact, like, for example, I can tell you, even in Ethiopia, for example, injera or other grain, informally, it is blended, informally. But when they sell it, they sell either it is 100% wheat or 100% teff injera. Instead, the government or institution under a policy should apply, there should be transparency. But at the same time, there should be education and awareness, because the other blending product as well as nutritious as the others. And as it is mentioned also by Dr. Fantahun, that also give incentive for the farmers, because the one who's growing the sorghum, the maize and so on would have a greater value. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Antana. I will try to address one key question that has been raised. The motive behind blending wheat, because Ethiopia, as you have mentioned, Ethiopia is highly dominated by teff, or we mainly consume injera. But however, teff fetches high price, so it's not accessible to most middle income and low income households. So the government, as you already know, the government also started a new initiative to feed this low income with the very low income families with the minimum amount of money. So we started a new initiative that's been served bread for at a minimum price. So this also created a high demand for wheat in Ethiopia. So now the government also started a new initiative to substitute being imported of wheat and to substitute locally, to produce it locally. So this initiative will give us this project a new insight for our government. We're also discussing when we go after this project, we're also planning to present this study or our project to higher officials, including the Ministry of Agriculture, so they can give it a close look. So what we can do about it in the future. So maybe it needs policy support or other initiatives. So currently this issue is at high priority for the government of Ethiopia. So that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to add to your question at bakeries level, of course, at all level, there is a need to know behavioral change, training and awareness creation. But the bakeries depend on the consumers. If the consumers' acceptability is good, then the bakeries, they don't care about, they just want to see it. So we need to work at the public, at the bakeries, at the millers, at the policy level, all the way across the value chains. And the other point is, this initiative should be actually widely taken throughout Africa. Indigenous crops are resilient. Why should we depend actually Ukraine and Russia? Why don't you produce it here? And this gives an opportunity for the development of the other crops. We are focusing now strategically for Ethiopia 5 crops: maize, wheat, teff, barley, and sorghum. These are 5 major crops. So it will give us the opportunity, to develop at equal scale like maize and wheat. Maize and wheat are at the top. And we can develop also others. Root crops, cassava, sweet potato, and others. So I think that's one important point. The second one is local food system. We are saying food system says local food system development. From that perspective also, we need to increase biodiversity in terms of nature positive production, while also diversify foods. And one question related to, I think the nutrition, as a justification. I actually indicated the over there. Normally cereals are deficient in lysine. So any other crop other than cereals can complement pulses, and others can complement actually the nutrition, the nutritive component of the wheat. So I have actually indicated as one justification to go for this process. But Isaias from Minister of Agriculture, they are working in the upper stream. In the production aspect, they are adding up to 1 million hectares. So the production even might be enough actually without the need to import. Even they are planning to export. But still we need actually, wheat is, is a very dangerous crop. It's liable for rusts. Ethiopia over the last 50 years have been in every decade dropping a new variety because of rusts. Kenya and Ethiopia are hotspot for rusts, a major disease which can wipe out everything. So you need to diversify actually the option. So from the industry level downstream, we need to work with the Ministry of Industry to take its own action to diversify and contribute to this food self-sufficiency. Otherwise, Isaias may be deaf ear, the Minister of Agriculture may be deaf ear this time because they are very busy working on expanding production. That's what can I say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciation for Team EthioStars. Thank you very much. Can we ask winning Team Uganda? It is your time.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the presentation from Winning Team Uganda. All my colleagues are here. My name is Rachel Ajambo.
and I had the privilege to lead that team. I'm the only lady on that team, and it was quite empowering. All right, so we looked at improved production and commercialization of the maize value chain. Okay, so there's been quite a bit of maize projects. In Eastern Uganda, we worked with a cooperative, a farmer cooperative called Together We Can in Iganga district. That is the eastern part of Uganda. Just to provide context, what were we looking at, or what was broken that we thought we could work on? Maize is one of the staple crops in Uganda, and it is produced by about 60% of the farmers, and we actually consume quite a bit of it in both urban and rural areas, especially in the institutions, schools, hospitals, prisons, and places like this. So, but we had two main things that we looked at in our value chain, that even though we are producing about 4.5 million metric tons actually on an annual basis, only 47% of that is of the required grade and standard. So we have quite a bit of room to improve. And also, we are selling most of our maize informally. And this one benefits actually our neighbor, yours truly, where we are. And and this is of course magnified by inappropriate marketing strategy. So this is what we were trying to address with our project. What is the Ugandan context? We have 4 major anchors for the maize value chain in Uganda. One, we are signatory to the CALA framework, and through that, we have already agreed that we will improve market access through improving rural infrastructure for trade and related interventions. The other one is it is important to the agro-industrialization program of the Ministry of Agriculture under the National Development Plan 3, which is our flagship program that all development in Uganda is being anchored. And we now have a project, a 5-year project for this term, this current regime, that we have what we call the Parish Development Model Program of the Government of Uganda, and they've also prioritized maize. And the other one is, of course, it is already also prioritized by the Ministry of Agriculture. That was actually the team in Iganga. We had gone to do a scouting on the farmer group. So how did we conceive the idea? At the time when we started to think about the ALP, we had an export ban in place on our Ugandan maize. We had our truck stuck at Busia for weeks on end, and the government here was insisting that our maize was full of aflatoxins, was unhealthy for Kenyans, and things like this. So, and also we saw that there were some implementation gaps where the agricultural sector development program of the government was addressing other aspects of the value chain, but not quality. And then, so what we did was to make an on-site visit. This was the very, very first visit to this group. And how did we look at alternatives? When we consulted, we discussed, we looked at what the government was doing, plus all the projects that were running at that time on the maize value chain. We came up with 3 alternatives. And we thought that to address quality, while also addressing volumes, but also addressing the issue that we have quite a bit of our maize sold in an unstructured manner, especially across borders. So we said we could, one, work with a financing institution to do credit financing of exporters to deal with the high levels of aflatoxin. So we wanted to work on it from the market side, that our people who are exporting maize should become more sophisticated and start rejecting maize that is of, to provide that market signal that, by the way, if your maize is not of the required standard, we are not going to do this. We're not going to buy it. The only problem is that the value chain financing is still an issue. Number 2, we thought we'd work with a large exporter. One of them was Agroways, and we link this person directly. The other one, the exporters are not working with farmers. They buy from traders who have already aggregated with big warehouses, and then they just pick from those warehouses and then do the logistics and export. The other one is we wanted to try
to work with at least one of the exporters that we know and link him directly to smallholder farmers so that he can provide also that market signal, because our smallholder farmers are not very sophisticated. They will just produce and then sell, produce and sell. And yet there are things that go into capturing structured trade or organized markets. And then the other one was to work directly with smallholder farmers. So we thought we would work directly with a cooperative to improve the quality of maize at farm level. So these were our three alternatives. So what we did a pairwise ranking and came up with number 3 as the most effective in terms of the time that we had and the investment that needed to be required for us to have a meaningful project. These were the results of our pairwise ranking. I've already talked about this. So our main goal was to improve the production and commercialization of the maize value chain in Eastern Uganda. And we had some really fantastic goals, specific objectives with our targets there. We wanted to increase volumes by 33% by last month. We also wanted to improve farm level yields by 12% or about 13%. We also wanted to increase the volume of maize meeting the market quality standard by about 5 metric tons from the baseline. The baseline was that the farmer group was already doing about 15 metric tons, good quality maize, but then the rest that they were producing was still below par. And then we also wanted to see them trading through structured linkages by the time we closed, which was early this month. This was our approach. Let me spend a bit of time. How does this one show a highlight? Here. Ah, very good. So the idea here is that we wanted to have the Together We Can group, which are the farmers over here. Maybe I can point with my hands or something. Okay. The idea was to have the Together We Can cooperative society. We had already identified it. We had profiled this group. They were already receiving government support from the agricultural sector development program. And therefore it was a leverage point. It was a quick win for us to work with a group that is already known and already involved in a government program. And so we're leveraging what was already there to quickly get those quick wins. So the idea was we work with these farmers, link them to a grain milling, who already had a grain milling facility installed. And the idea was that we build a critical mass of village agents around them. And these village agents were to now, we would now train these village agents on quality aspects of the maize. And the idea was that these village agents would now train the fellow farmers, and then we would now link the Together We Can group to a structured market or an off-taker on the other side. So this was our approach. Develop a network of village-based agents around the cooperative, have these as the agents who are now training farmers and of course looking at what the group was doing as group members. And the idea was that we would now link this entire ecosystem to an actual buyer who is doing grain milling and who is doing export as well. So this was our approach to what we wanted to do. Now that we had zeroed down on the option that we work directly with the smallholder farmer, the smallholder farmer cooperative society. So we did quite a bit of activities. One is we had radio talk shows to sensitize farmers, especially about fake inputs. That was actually something that came up during the consultations. The farmers told us that it is not that we don't buy inputs. We buy inputs so that we can also improve productivity. But the inputs we are buying are not genuine ones. And therefore, we spend money, but we don't pick the value that we have paid for. So we developed a radio talk show around this. I'll talk about it later. And then we also created a market linkage. We actually identified an off-taker, Blessed Tree Planters, and agro input buyer, agro input company limited. And this off-taker, actually, we linked them directly to this group. we identified the VBAs, or the village-based agents, that we wanted to train, and these are the ones that we actually trained, not only on the agro inputs traceability system that had already been developed by the government and not really well known by anyone, but we worked with them, we trained them on this system, and also trained them on the good agricultural practices so that they can pass on the knowledge to their fellow farmers. And then we engaged with district officials for the embedding of activities within the local institution. And then we also trained really on the good agricultural practices, post-harvest management, marketing and standards of maize. We actually, what we did, we customized the extension manual on maize that has already been developed, and we translated this into the local language, which is Lusoga. Is that a drill? Let me just continue. Okay. Okay, so our full results, maybe just for us to know, our full results will actually come in after February, but we at least had some intermediary results. I'll run over these quickly. These pictures are actually real field pictures with our team. This was our coach, actually. She came with us over to the field and visited the Together We Can group while we're doing the market linkage. Actually, that was the day we went with her to do the market linkage with the Together We Can group. This was now the company. The team actually was in the Blessed Tree company offices somewhere in Mukono. And then we did a sign off with this group. We introduced them, and they actually immediately picked up the group and supplied the improved inputs to this group. This was actually the delivery of these inputs to this group. So one of the intermediary outcomes is that we had an off-taker, and we had this one a supply, actually, the actual genuine inputs to these farmers, because he wanted to assure that what he was going to get at the end of the season is actually what he wants in terms of variety, in terms of the inputs, especially maize. He was providing a particular variety to the smallholder farmers, not bazooka. Ronald, which one was it? The variety. Okay, that one. Okay, this was inputs. And under this intermediate outcome, so we have captured our results by intermediate outcomes. So I'll just go over these ones now. Okay, so under objective 2, where we did the trainings and we did the translation of the manual, and we also scheduled radio talk shows, especially on fake inputs, and also co-facilitated meetings between the Together We Can group, together with the off-taker, because we had to introduce the off-taker to this farmer group. They didn't know them. We are the ones now who are brokering this relationship. And so from that, we had input supplied. Actually, we had about 3 metric tons of fertilizer supplied to this group. We also had about 0.5 metric tons of seed, improved seed supplied to this group. And this was actually a photo of a trainer. This trainer is actually the district agriculture officer. So we facilitated him to come and actually train his people. We told him we could actually do the training. Only issue is we want you people at the ministry level to take responsibility for the change, because us, we are only here for a few minutes or a few days or weeks, but you people are here every day with this group. And we would like you to actually keep supporting this group. So we facilitated them. This was now the training that was happening at the We Can facilities in Ulamaji. We had also a consultant, actually, from the ministry, who actually developed the traceability system under the Ministry of Agriculture, come and actually show these smallholder farmers, how do you check that an input is genuine or not. So he informed us that there is a barcode that is on each input that is imported into the country, because we We do most of our inputs by importation. And therefore, he told farmers how to check these codes, that when you see this code is broken or a seal is not there or something like this, just know for sure that that one is adulterated. And then, of course, we also had the VBAs. Now, these were now the VBAs. The VBAs were now group leaders in there were group leaders in the community, and they could easily reach out to their fellow farmers. This group is 700 members strong. And but we couldn't, of course, train 700 members. Under objective 3, we had, of course, another training. Now this one on the top here, this was their district commercial officer. He came and told farmers about food loss, and he told them about maintaining quality, what moisture content to dry the maize at, how do you ensure that when an off-taker like Blessed Tree is requesting for 12%, how are you going to achieve the 12%? Blessed Tree also provided some tarpaulins to these smallholder farmers. Now, this was us in the radio station. It was called IFM. We had the RDC with us. The RDC is the district resident commissioner. We actually had to request for his time. Usually, the government, all government stations are supposed to provide, all private radio stations are supposed to provide government with free airtime at any point in time. So if there's a government program, they can actually go on the radio and use this time. And so we leveraged our 2 commissioners on our team to get that airtime provided. And so this was us in the radio station explaining to the farmers about that traceability system, but also talking about the good agroeconomic practices and structuring maize trade. This district where we were working is the 2nd largest producer of maize in Uganda. The key thing to note here is that on our last engagement, we had a contract signed. So we were here, all of us, to witness the contract signing between Blessed Tree planters and the smallholder farmer group. Together we can, and they were to supply 500 metric tons of improved, good quality maize to Blessed Tree this season. And so we did a quick math, and that would be about, should they manage to produce it? And I think they will manage to produce it, because there's 700 members, and with some inputs that have been provided under the government voucher system, but also under this arrangement, they will be comfortably able to supply this. And we're looking at them making about 360 million shillings. Maybe another thing I need to mention is that Blessed Tree actually pledged to provide for each kilo a premium price above about 20% above the market price, should they meet the quality standard. So the caveat was there, it was very clear. This supply contract was actually translated. People, they sat together with Blessed Tree and they agreed. This is the volume we need. We are giving you these inputs. We are going to offset them from the money that we have given you. We are going to pay you. We'll give you a premium price, but you must produce the quality that is required. Our lessons. Our lessons are in 3 categories. Let me go over team management. The first one is that it is very key to build team consensus, especially around ALP activities. So at my office, I provided an open area, a safe space where we could always come and touch base on what is going on. This was one of the sessions, and people were clearly very happy to have a cup, to share a cup of tea, while also going over
Give us a second. Try and.
Okay, so for us, these are the things that worked for us as a team. We built consensus, and we did that not online all the time. We actually had those physical meetings for us, and they were very, very important. And we divided roles and responsibilities. Everyone knew what their role was. We would meet, agree, and all of us would pull together in the same direction. And then we also formed a WhatsApp group that kept us, when we were not together, we actually had this continuous, even while we are here, people are still texting each other. You know, you're the one answering these questions from the other panelists, you're the one. It worked for us very well. Next slide. Okay, so about relationship building, I have talked about how we actually very seriously engage with the district officials. And for us, we found this a very, very key thing for the success of our ALP. So we built these partnerships with the private sector, together with the public sector, and they work very well. And for us, this was important because we knew this would be something that is left behind to continue running when we're not there. The other one was and it was all the district officials, right from the technical officials to the political officials in the district. It's very, very important. You cannot come out of somewhere else and start doing things in a district without engaging the district officials. It would be one of the points of failure or contention with the local authorities. And of course, another one is that once you've publicized an intervention, we had already gone there to let them know we have an ALP and things like this. When something is promised in the community, it must be carried out. And so this was something that was also a key success factor for us, that we went, engaged with the local communities, promised what we were promising to get their local buy-in, and we actually delivered on this. We also discovered that actually large off-takers, because Blessed Tree is one of those SMEs that does processing, but they also do quite a bit of export of high quality maize flour to Kenya, to South Sudan, and to the DRC. And therefore, they actually were looking for where can we link with smallholder farmers so that we get them to buy into our vision as a company. And so they've actually gone ahead to even engage other cooperatives in the district without us, because they are now already linked to the district officials. So they are now running with the vision without us. And so this was also another lesson for us. Next slide. Last but not least, we had to set very realistic targets, and we had very ambitious ones in the beginning. But with Shada, between Shada and Jonathan, we had to set those things that could actually work. So setting realistic targets, but also identification and prioritization of leverage points in any system is very, very important. We were able to see where is the leverage, where can we get it? Can we work with the RDC? Can we work with the government program already in the place? Can we now find someone who is just waiting to be pushed just a little? So leverage points, very, very key as one of the lessons learned. We were still up and down those days when we were just starting with our ideas, and our mentor made it very clear that we must have a logical link between our problem segment, our objectives, interventions and activities. And of course, Blessed Tree also have embraced the concept of greening their operations, because I think that comment came earlier on in our LP, and we're very happy to find an input, an SME that also cares about the environment. This off-taker actually also supplies tree seedlings to smallholder farmers. So once they are associated with the group, they give actually tree seedlings to that cooperative to plant as part of their environmental sustainability. Next slide. What are we recommending? That we support efforts to roll out the inputs e-services mechanism to rural areas, especially on the traceability system, so that we stamp out that problem of having inputs that are not genuine on the market in Uganda. So this one was a publication where the government finally launched this input system. And so they might need support to actually roll this out. 2, we need to actually work to strengthen those market linkages, look at local government and FBOs to ensure that the structuring of maize value chain, because what we did was just a pilot in a small area, but can we strengthen those and have several other FBOs also engaging in this structured trade? Because the off-takers are willing and ready, but someone needs to do that extra work. And then we also need to support private off-takers to engage with value chain actors through PPPs that are beneficial to all parties. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we've lost 2 panel members for a very good reason that we'll explain in a bit. But I might request you both, before you speak, to move over to this end. So Robert and Rebecca, I'm going to ask you. Oh, not. It's okay. Okay, don't move. Okay. So I'm watching everyone's head signals. You have to be able to read head signals. They're important. Okay, never mind. Over to you for some really quick feedback questions. And if you'd like your team members to join you.
Okay, thank you so much to the team, the winning team, for winning. You're already winners. Some of those outputs are incredibly good over such a short period. And so I want to thank you for taking on this project and for doing what you did, because clearly if those are the outputs that you're doing in a small scale, can you imagine if this was scaled across the entire country and more processors or business entities and cooperatives took it up? It would be just wonderful. I like that you selected several, let me put it that way, several objectives to address, you know, things within the same value chain, because it is consistent with what we know, that there's never really just one silver bullet. You need to attack an issue from different perspectives within the same, you know, space, so that you can actually make a difference. So that was great. One of the questions that I have, first, let me also say that I like the linkage to the export market. Sometimes it's good to take a regional and even international look at things, because the potential is really, really big out there. And if you can have farmers earning premiums for quality, if that can be a culture, and I think we could extend it from maize to even milk and other places, that then is the incentive that goes back to the farm. Why should I invest in controlling aflatoxin if I'm not going to be paid for it? Yeah, but with this, is it blessed tree? What a wonderful name, blessed tree. Is maybe a leader in this regard. My 1 or 2 quick questions or suggestions. I think some element of knowledge management might really help in terms of, in several dimensions. Just having clarity on which farmers have been trained, where they are. That could be online, could be a database, how much acreage, what their production is, etc. And maybe you've thought of this, because traceability relies a lot on information and on creating a history of consistency. And that could be used right up to the consumer level. Knowing where this maize that is on my table came from gives me assurance that it is clean, because I know that you are the one who produced it. Sometimes it's taken to that extent. So if you could think about it. And then the other dimension of the knowledge management is documenting your model. Let me call it a model for now. It's a business model where you have gone to a community, you have intervened in a certain way, and you have some results. In fact, if I was a businessman, I would say, okay, I should get a cut from the extra income that came from the premiums and from the increased quantities, And the farmers wouldn't mind because I've helped them to earn more. I'm only getting maybe 5% or 10%. So it could be a BDS, a business development service. So if you document it, cooperatives can adapt it, they can follow. They can take like a manual or something. This is what you must do. This is how you make the money. This is how you know, everything is clearly documented. That could be an additional output that would really support this. I think we are pressed for time. Yeah, let me leave it there and hand over to Rebecca. But again, congratulations. This was great. I'm sure most of us are heartily supporting you for what you're doing, and hopefully you continue to do it even beyond the ALP.
This one. Yeah, great job. Winning team. It was really, really good. And I really liked what you said, Rachel, about how you, with your lessons learned, about how you found the point of leverage, and in the system you needed to almost kind of try and, you know, you push it a few different levers to say, are they going to be the lever that's going to unlock something? And I've just been reflecting through these different sessions on this balance between, you know, you're working with a complex system. And like Robert said, it's not like there's a silver bullet, one thing, you know, you've got to do multiple things. But I think what you've done so well here is to still, within that complexity, find those points of leverage and really focus on them. So I'd really echo what Robert said about, I love the fact you've turned it into a commercial model just there. But it's quite, to really try and boil down, what is this? What is the mechanism that's making the change? I found myself wondering how these Blessed Trees guys sound wonderful. And I wondered how many Blessed Tree kind of off-takers there are out there. And obviously I don't know the market like you, but I found myself wondering, is that replicable? Would others do that? Is there something particular or special about them? And how might you make sure that the incentives are lined up to unlock that kind of off-taker relationship over and over? And then I guess the big question is then who does that and who takes that on? But really exciting. Yeah, well done and very well presented. Thanks.
I think most of them were just remarks. They were not actually questions. Just to mention a little bit about Blessed Tree. I think it is unique in its own ways, that it is dealing in seed and grain, but at the same time also they actually sell tree seedlings to cater for the issue of climate change. But there are not many entities like that. I think it's just coincidental. And given that now that is the future, that is something, of course, that we encouraged the groups that we're working with, and we hope more entities, more off-takers can actually take up that model. But this was unique that they sell the seedlings, at the same time they deal in grain and also seed. I think the rest were just for further information. Thank you.
That's it. Any other comments? All good. I think one last one.
We have more than one speakers on the team. You may think others are dumb, but no, we are not. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, we definitely don't think anything ill of you. Don't worry. We know it's team effort. So, ladies and gentlemen, now I know we have one more group, but I'm going to ask us to adapt a little bit and be a little bit flexible. We do have a special guest who is joining us today, and as we wait for them, what we would like to request is that Team Kenya, you'll present when they're here, just so we don't break the flow. For now, can we just take a 5-minute break, please? 5 minutes only. We will have another longer tea break later, just 5 minutes. Stretch. I'm not sure if there's tea or coffee out there. If not, don't worry. We will have some in 40 minutes once the group is presented. But just 5 minutes and then we'll come back while we wait for our guest.